I should get my own sugar daddy to do the same thing for me. At first I thought he was bullshitting 100%. Hi ladies and gents, welcome back to my channel. I'm Mina and today I'm back with another great story time for you guys. And today's story time is gonna be about my marriage with my cousin. You heard that right. Don't worry, we're not together anymore before you have a heart attack. And I'm also gonna share with you guys how my ass was able to get out of that relationship. Yeah, dodge that bullet, alright? But anyway, your girl got some hot milk. Hot chocolate milk right here because it's very late at night and I don't want to be drinking like tea or coffee. I don't even drink coffee. Well, once in a while. But anyway, grab some snacks or a whole meal because this is gonna be a good one and a very long one at that. So if you got the patience and your snacks, let's get going, I guess. So this crazy relationship began after me and my little sister were taken back home for something that Somalis call Khanailis, which basically means that you're too westernized and that you need to relearn the whole culture because you forgot about everything that was taught to you at a young age. That's my definition, by the way. I'll actually insert the definition that Google gave me right here, right now. It's a very long flight, and when we finally got back home, I saw him for the first time at the place that we were staying at, and he was helping with the luggages and stuff, you know, because we had too many luggages. And the last time that we saw each other was when we were little kids, and we used to play games together and stuff like that. So now it was just very different and a bit awkward, I might add. Yeah, it was very awkward, but I was too tired to even notice. So our relationship began after about a week or a little over a week. It was definitely less than 2 weeks and the relationship was okay. It wasn't too terrible. I mean, most people really don't show their true colors in the dating stage until they're either like further down in the dating stage or almost gonna get married or something like that. But it was very different because our relationship was, you know, like going very quickly. When I was brought back home, I had a feeling that my mom was gonna force me to get married, but part of me did not think it was gonna like start that quick. It was just like boom boom boom, and I wasn't ready for that mentally and physically, and I was just like it was just too fast for me. That's all I'm trying to say. We dated for about 6-7 months before tying the knot, and it wouldn't even be 6 months if, you know, his mom didn't want like a big wedding. Since that was her first son getting married, she wanted a huge wedding. But anyway, my first red flag should have been like the dating going very fast. Like I said, I wasn't ready, neither was he. I was months older than him, so my maturity level was definitely up there and his was like right here. Actually, let's bring it down a notch right here. No offense. He wasn't mature enough, so let's start with that. And the fact that everything was going very fast, I should have just hit the brakes. But I feel like I was too naive and too young too, so I was just like, everything is nice. So I totally drove through that first red flag. That tastes good. So I also heard rumors that this guy was basically preparing himself for me when he heard that, you know, we were going back home and basically getting ready to win the competition of what guys would line up for us. And normally I'm not one to believe rumors, but it was a bit different this time because that first night I remember, even though I was very jet lagged and I was very tired, I remember him giving me the look. If you're grown up enough, you know what look I'm talking about. So the relationship was definitely toxic from the start, but at the time I didn't think anything was wrong with it. All I remember is him getting jealous all the freaking time, and that is something that can literally break a relationship. It doesn't matter what age, and I've learned that throughout the years. Our honeymoon period was like him being jealous and me thinking that was all cute and sweet because, you know, I was young, and I thought him being extremely jealous was him being a little possessive, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so freaking cute. I can't believe this. That's how much he loves me. And when I say excessive jealousy, I mean like literally this man would get jealous of every guy that glanced at me, every guy that walked by me. Apparently all the guys wanted to get in my pants. That could be true at some point, but that also might not be true. I just have a hard time believing that every guy, you know? I mean, And mind you, this was like a whole decade ago, but who's counting, right? And that goes on to show how immature I was myself, but compared to him, I was pretty mature. Anyway, the jealousy became too much to a point where I couldn't even go on the balcony of the apartment without being fully covered or modestly dressed. I didn't mind at all, but the way he was asking me was not nice. And I'm a person that doesn't take disrespect at all. And I felt like he was coming at me, and I didn't like that. And I wasn't taking that bullshit. And when I say the windows, I literally mean the windows, not outside, the fucking windows of the apartment. So just imagine that you fully have to dress up like you're about to go outside just because your husband thinks that the neighbor guys are joblessly peeking through their windows or the balcony every freaking second. So at that point, I was starting to get tired of the whole jealousy thing. I wasn't finding him very cute anymore. I didn't like it anymore. And he's done that a few times. I would just be walking around and he'd just be like, you need to be covered up more. You can't be walking around with that bati. Bati is like a cultural dress in Somali. So that's like a cotton dress, which is very, very loosely fitted, by the way. And I would walk around the house in that. It basically covers pretty much everything, literally, even if you're not wearing anything underneath. But some of them can be very see-through, so I wouldn't suggest that. But anyway, I'd just be walking around, minding my own business, you know, cleaning, cooking, whatever I'm doing, and he'd just be like, you can't walk by the windows, you can't go to the balcony with that dress. He'd be like, you need to have like a hijab on top of the dress, which covers this area too. And I'd just be like, but I'm already covered and I'm not going outside. Why? His reasoning was that guys are pervs. And as much I do agree with him on that one, I really doubted that those neighbor guys were just sitting around throughout the whole freaking day peeking through the windows. Like, I just have a hard time understanding his logic, you know? Especially knowing that those same guys that he was talking about are the same ones that were taking their asses to work. And even though I know that I'm a very strong woman and that I normally don't take bullshit from anyone, at the time I was very in love. I thought I was very in love. So therefore, I was basically like listening to everything that he said to me. I didn't know where he was coming from, like I said, especially the whole window and balcony thing. But I was just like, you know what? He's my husband. He's probably right. I'm just gonna do as he says. So that's what I did. Big mistake. That was a no-no. Bad Mina. You shouldn't have done that. And since at the time I was a bit religious and I really cared about my culture, you can say. I still do, not to that extent though. Like if he puts me down in some way, I'm not gonna care about it as much. Because, you know, treat others the way you want to be treated, duh. Since I cared about my culture at the time, and my culture says that you should, well, my culture and religion, they both say that you should respect your husband, and pretty much whatever they say goes. That's another reason I never doubted what he said. Milk break. I feel like in a little bit that milk is gonna have to be like cold milk. So far we have relationship going too fast, excessive jealousy, right? That's the second red flag. So I'd cook and clean for the whole family every single day. And this guy was not even appreciative enough. Like, thank you would never cross his lips. It was just like,
yeah, that's what you do here. Like, what world are you from?
And I'm like, the world where they treat women with respect. That world. But I actually never stayed that because your girl was too nice. So now I'm gonna give you guys an idea of how the living situation was. So after we got married, we moved to a nicer apartment which was newly built, and we were one of the first tenants. But the problem with that is that because the apartment was newer, it charged more than the other one, and it was a bit smaller, a lot more smaller actually. And at the time, I didn't live with them because I wasn't married to him, but I would just visit him. And they were neighbors with the people that we were staying. So that was very convenient. So the apartment that we moved in after we got married, 1 bathroom, no living room, a tiny ass hallway, and 2 bedroom and a kitchen. And don't get me wrong, I am very thankful and I'm very appreciative from the bottom of my heart for his mom for making ends meet. So there were 5 kids and the mom. And later on, before I came back home, we were joined by his older sister and her 2 kids. So 1 bedroom was for me and him, and 1 bedroom was for the rest of the family. Once again, I never met a woman like his mom, and I'm very appreciative to her for all she did for us and her kids. But I'm also blaming her son, aka my ex-husband, for not getting his ass to work and providing for us, for me. So his mom had to make the sacrifice for having every sibling in the room with her, right? Like in that one tiny bedroom. Like the whole bedroom was basically filled with mattresses on the floor and one big ass bed, which took like half of the bedroom. And around the bed was mattresses. So the room that was for us also had the TV in it, and it would occasionally have chairs for the guests because that was the only, decent room. Yeah. And it also meant that people can stay up late to watch TV and stuff, which is something that I really didn't like. Sometimes a girl gotta get some sleep. So it's about that time I threw another bombshell at you guys. So here it goes. His dad is the only uncle that I have from my mom's side. And his mom is also my auntie from my mom's side. They're actually cousins. Yep. Okay, I got off topic a little bit there. But going back to what I was saying, so since our room was treated like a living room, one thing that he really enjoyed was playing video games with his siblings, right? So that's practically what they did the whole day. I don't blame his siblings because they were not married and they were younger than him, but I do blame him. I actually supported him in that. What was I thinking? I don't even know. I'd be like in the kitchen the whole day, freaking cooking, cleaning, taking care of the kids, taking care of his ass. And all he'd be doing is playing video games or watching soccer games. And sometimes we'd actually have an argument about that when I was not in the best mood. And I'd just be like, this is all you do the whole day. Like now you're married and we could soon be bringing a child to this world and all you're doing is playing video games. And his way of calming me down would be like, I'm watching this game to learn new tricks so I can use those tricks in the video games. And now that I actually say that out loud, it sounds terrible. So every once in a while, I just wonder, like, why he deserved to be treated with respect, since he wasn't treating me with respect, since he was never appreciative, since he would never, like, take me out. I'd have to force him to go out, since we were, like, newlyweds, and since that was my life, I just wanna, like, I wanna go shopping or something, and I'd have to basically beg him for days before we could actually go out, and that was pretty sad, because he didn't mind going to shopping by himself. I was starting to think that he was embarrassed by me, and I do believe that he was, but he wasn't. When other guys thought I was cute, that was the only time he wouldn't be embarrassed by me, and that sucked because I don't want to be with a guy who's embarrassed by me, let alone be in a marriage with one. That's a no-no. So his mom likes watching shows, and I'd watch the shows with his mom because one, I really enjoyed them, and two, because I'd have to translate them for her anyway, because they'd have English subtitles, and obviously she doesn't speak Hindi, which is mostly what they spoke in those shows. So after a long day, me and her and his other sister would just watch those drama shows, and the guys hated it, and they would just basically be counting down until the time came right when his mom went to sleep, which would be around maybe 10 to 12 depending on how she's feeling that day and how tired she is. So right after that, him and his brother would just basically start playing the video games. Remember how that's also our bedroom, and around 12 a.m. I'd also be worn out and I'd just want to lay down and go to sleep. But this guy is like a little kid playing video games with his brothers. At first it wasn't that terrible because I just ignore him and stuff, but then it got really bad because he continuously did it, and I was hoping that he'd grow out of it and that he'd realize, because people like doing things that they're not supposed to, so I didn't want to encourage that behavior at all. I just wanted to basically ignore it so he can just be like, oh, it's not really bothering her, or she didn't tell me don't do this, so now I don't feel like I have to do it and be a rebel. I don't know if I'm making sense. So at this point, say that we're married for about 8 months with the same routine. So we'd wake up around 12 to 1 p.m. every single day. We'd end up falling asleep around 3 to 4. There were times when we were actually sleeping 5 to 6 in the morning, and his mom would be irritated by me not being able to wake up earlier and start cooking because I'm waking up lunchtime instead of breakfast time. She'd have to go in the kitchen and cook breakfast, and she didn't like that. So every night I'd just be hella drowsy laying down in the bed while him and his brother are like playing video games like 3 feet away from me. I'm being loud as hell every time they score or do some crazy shit. And sometimes what he would do is try to manipulate me to cheer him on and be on his side and piss his brother. That would be a way to shut me up, I guess, and that really worked sometimes because I was like, oh my gosh, she's involved with me, yay, I want to be involved, that was letting me be involved in the way I wanted it. But once I figured out his game, pun intended, I'd be really annoyed with him, and every 40 minutes I'd just be like, we should go to sleep. I'm really tired. I'm sleepy. And he'd just be like,
shh, 30 more minutes, that's it, 30 more minutes.
But what ended up happening would be he'd win, his brother would want a rematch, 30 more minutes. He'd lose and be pissed, then he'd want a rematch. It was like a vicious cycle over and over. Every time I'd just be like, oh, game is over. And he'd be like,
well, now I'm not happy.
It was just terrible. And I'm not a fast sleeper, but sometimes what would happen would be I'd just be like really, really tired from the 8-hour shift that I had, cooking and cleaning the whole day. Yeah. I just get really, really sleepy to a point where I would just be like, I'm just gonna close my eyes for 5-10 seconds and I'll come there and support you, right? And I just fall asleep, like literally. And I kind of mentioned this point earlier. Most of our arguments would be like about me cooking and cleaning and acting like the ideal wife, and him not even meeting the expectations of a normal husband, which included him not providing for us, right? And we'd occasionally have that argument. I wouldn't say occasionally, it was more like every other day, but okay. And every time that I'd ask him why he can't just start working, he'd be like, I don't want to work for those Arab employers because they pay minimum wage, and I don't want to make minimum wage. I mean, if they offered more than that, I would. But the thing is that everyone who's working for those Arab employers, they're all making minimum wage. That's how you start. I mean, don't get me wrong, the minimum wage here is way better than there, but also the expenses there are way less than here. Technically, it is like earning a minimum wage, except that his mom was receiving money from his uncles and aunties in the United States, which was helping with all of the bills, the food and all of that. So the money that he earned would be for us and pocket money and all of that, but he didn't want to do that. It's not like he was, renting his own place. Mom's boy much. But anyway, let me just share another experience with you guys. So one day, sarcastically, I shared this with him. I told him that my best friend at the time had a sugar daddy who took care of her financial needs. And I may have mentioned how I'm the one who was married to a guy that doesn't even provide for me. I was being passive aggressive. That was supposed to have a bell ring in his little tiny brain, right? Somewhere. But instead of the right bell going ding, the wrong one went ding, which was the idea that I should get my own sugar daddy to do the same thing for me. At first I thought he was bullshitting 100%. I was like, nice one, I see what you did there. And I thought he was being his typical self, getting jealous of some other dude who's providing for someone else, and that he couldn't do the same thing, and that I even had to mention that. But he had a serious face, and that caught me off guard a lot. So I kind of just ignored it, and then a few days passed by and this guy brings it up again, and I'm like, he's serious. Wow, he's not kidding. So he basically asked if I got one yet. And I just couldn't wrap my head around it, knowing how jealous this guy gets. Part of me still felt like he was trying to see my reaction. He was trying to see how I'd feel about it. But then I'm like, he looks very serious, so I'm not sure. I told you guys my drink would eventually be a cold drink, so now I put some ice in it. Where was I? Yeah. Anyway, so as you guys can imagine how confused I was when this guy suddenly becomes an open-minded guy when he came to me using another guy for his money to provide for me, which is something that he couldn't do. You see where I'm going with this? So he decides to bring it up one more time, and I was just like, okay, I guess I'll have to get one now. And I thought I was beating him at his own game, but little did I know that he was serious. So your girl, that's me, starts looking for a sugar daddy. And as you can imagine, it's even harder finding a sugar daddy back home because there isn't just as many ways to find one. So against all odds, I find one, and I'm still sitting here thinking that this is a joke, right? Like, this must be a joke. I was embarrassed for him, for one. For a guy who gets super jealous, I don't understand how it was so easy for him to put his pride down, but that's on him. But at this point, I'm still thinking that I'm playing a game, right? So we started talking to the guy, and I said we because it was both of us. He would mostly talk to the guy when he was around, and when he wasn't around, he would make sure that I say whatever he tells me to say, like even when it came to the flirtation. At that point, I was just like, okay, I guess we're doing this, so let's keep doing it. He would mostly text him at night when he was around. Oh yeah, I forgot what he would do during the day. If he wasn't playing video games at home, he would go outside and play soccer with some of his friends. But anyway, when he wasn't around during the day, I would text the guy, and he would basically text me and tell me what to say, and I would either just copy and paste or type exactly the same words to the guy. So that was a bit awkward. or sometimes we do it together, like a couple thing, you know? So that was fun. So he'd basically text him and give me the phone, and he'd be like, tell him this. Yeah, go. Type whatever I just told you right now. So he finally came to meeting the guy, right? Prior to the meeting, I didn't send him any photos because one, I didn't feel comfortable. I'm not even talking about, I'm just talking about regular photos. And secondly, he didn't let me send photos, like even face photos. And now you kind of see why the guy was hesitant, right? So at this point, I'm still thinking, you know, we're just playing around with the guy through texting, whatever. He hasn't even seen my face. It's all good, right? Nope. So the guy wanted to meet, and he obviously knew about what the guy wanted. And he's like, you should do it. And I'm like, say what? He's like,
I think you should go meet him.
and I'm like, you're kidding. And he's like,
No, I'm not. I think you should go.
so this is the end of part 1. I'm gonna be back soon with a part 2. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel so you can hear more of these juicy stories in the future. I have so many coming up too. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!